So now I'm pleased to introduce Ed Crow. Ed is a talent and culture expert who delivers captivating, high-energy keynote presentations that challenge the traditional model of HR and prepare decision makers for motivating their people with a win-win strategy. In his career, Ed has helped over 250 clients achieve talent and culture transformations, including Fortune 500 companies. As a result, audiences value Ed's deep understanding of the employee-employer dynamic and his ability to create a connection with them right away. On stage, he provides practical approaches, tools, and relevant stories to inspire action. Ed's topics bring a refreshing perspective on how to leverage what is commonly viewed as people problems and turn negative growth into business success. He is the author of Strategic HR, Driving Bottom Line Results Through Your People. Thank you so much, Ed, for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So we're going to talk about something called the experience age today. How many of you have ever heard of the experience age? That's why you're here. Tell us, Ed. Tell us all about the experience age. What age do you commonly hear that we are in right now as a society? Digital age, or the information age, okay? So as a quick history lesson, since we started off talking about history while everyone was coming in, so we hit the information age when what happened? The internet, right? And all of a sudden we had all this information at our fingertips. Anything we wanted. In fact, that's, I'm very disappointed in all of you because I asked about the Upper Peninsula and we had to Google it. So, but the information's there, right? It's all there for us. What has changed now is how we use that information, how we acquire that information, what we do with it. And so we're going to see how that is impacting our employees and our candidates and what they are expecting out of their workplace experience. You see, whether we're talking about employees or candidates or us as the consumers of this information, it's how we use it that is changing. It's no longer that we Google things for mild trivia, right? We go out there for information and then we figure out what do we need to do to use this information. But look at how social media has changed. How many of you at some point in the conference here have tweeted, posted on LinkedIn, Facebook, Snapchat, something that you are here in Grand Rapids at this conference? Show of hands. Okay, not as many as I would have thought, okay, but that's okay. Why are you telling the world that you're here in Grand Rapids? Does the world revolve around you? Why do we do it?
Experience.
Why? Whose experience?
Yours and how you impact others.
Ah, so we're hoping that by telling people that we are here, they'll say, oh, well, maybe I'll go to that conference next year. Wonder what happened at that conference next year. And you post pictures at the cocktail hour tonight. Hey, look, I'm having a good time. It's not all just about learning. HR can be fun. Hey, how about that for a novel idea, right? So we look at all these things. We are sharing our experiences with other people. Okay? That's what the internet in large part has turned into today. Hence why YouTube grew so fast and now TikTok is taking off. Those are experiential social media platforms. We're going to talk about how we need to harness that power as HR people. If we're going to be the best employer, the workplace of choice, call it whatever you want, we have to create an experience for our people and our candidates like nobody else is creating. The companies that can do this, that can do what we're going to talk about today, are going to win the war on talent. Now, I hope that there's no one sitting in here saying, well, first off, let me just back up. Everyone in here is hiring, right? Show of hands. Who's hiring? Yep, all of you. Okay, keep your hands up if you can't find the people you're trying to hire. Yeah, exactly, right? So it's all over. It's not just Michigan. Okay? It's not just hospitality. If I went around here, I'd probably see manufacturing and service and so on, not-for-profit. We got a cross-section of industries in here, okay? It is hitting everyone, everywhere, in every geography, okay? The challenges that I hear too often is, well, once COVID's done, whatever that means, when COVID is done, things will go back to normal. Okay, so rewind your clock to this time in 2019 or in 2018. Were you hiring then? Could you find the people you were looking for then? Most people are like, yeah, really, we couldn't, right? Nothing has changed. Now, if you're in the hospitality industry, you've been hit extra hard by this. I get that. So things have really worsened for you. So this concept that once COVID's over, things will go back to normal. Well, the normal 2 or 3 years ago was that we were hiring, we couldn't find good people. Okay, so here we are, right? It's not going away. So we have to figure out how we keep the people that we have, but just as importantly, how do we draw talent to us instead of us just blindly going out to the lake and throwing a lure in and hoping we catch something, okay? That's what we're going to talk about today. So this concept of the experience age is where it's at. Companies that can figure out the things we're going to talk about today are going to win this war. They're going to provide the experiences that today's employees are looking for and that today's candidates are looking for. So when we think about experience, I want you to think about how you use social media for a moment here, okay? How many of you watch videos on YouTube, whether educational or they're just funny cat videos? Okay, so we watch stuff on YouTube, okay? If you are scrolling on your LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn feed, what makes you stop at something in your feed?
Something interesting.
Okay, but what's interesting to you? What catches your eye?
Sports.
Sports on LinkedIn.
Oh,
Okay.
LinkedIn
Yeah.
specifically?
Yeah. Let's just talk business for a second.
The job market's interesting. Employee engagement is
Okay.
interesting.
Pictures.
Pictures. Okay. You see a cool picture. Like, oh, wonder what that is. You can go live on YouTube now. You guys know this, right? You can go live. You can post videos, all that stuff. Okay. My point is, it's not just the text. Now, how many of you have? Well, let me back up for a second. Take a look at the 3 bullet points that I've got here, okay, but especially number 3. Think about what service means to you these days, okay? Has your expectation of service changed over the years? Do you expect more? Maybe you're a little more forgiving right now because of the short staffing of a lot of the industries that we deal with, like you go out to eat or you're flying on a plane or whatever. But we still want good service. Our people and our candidates want good service from their employers. It wasn't too long ago that, and I still believe this, I believe that the employment relationship is super simple, okay? I've got time, talents that I'm willing to give you over here. What are you going to give me in return for my time and talent? Money. What else? Benefits. What else? Flexibility, safety, all the things that we do as HR people. Now here's the problem. When I offer you the job, this is in balance. We shake hands, I say, I'm going to pay you $50,000 to do X. You say, great, I will do X for $50,000. Everybody's happy. Until what happens? No, we're not going to talk about people not showing up, okay? Because that might be our problem. We'll talk about that. So I can see Eric's pat. So Eric leaves, right? We give our work to Jenna. Now, she gets half of Eric's work. Whoop. Do we give her half of Eric's pay? Of course not. Do we give her anything? Not usually. Now, how often, we're out of balance now. How long is Jenna going to put up with this? Right? Not long. The idea that we can continue to expect more and more and more from our people without keeping things in balance. And I get, there are limitations to budget. No one in their right mind would take half of Eric's pay and give it to Jenna. I get that. But what are we doing, right? What we agreed to with her that everyone shook hands on and said this is going to work is now not going to work for her for very long, okay? Her expectation has changed. Why? Why won't she put up with this for very long?
unfair.
It's unfair, but so what? So what if it's unfair? Why is she not going to put up with it? I'm sorry?
You didn't disclose it going in. But there might be
Don't care about that. Don't care about that either. There's somewhere else she can go. In this market, she's going to say, well, heck, they're not going to pay me. I'm out. Because I'm willing to do this work, but doggone it, I'm going to get paid for it. And someone else will pay her what she's worth. That's why service has changed. So I just want you to think about our expectations as consumers of a service and our expectations. And then I want you to think about that in terms of your employees, because they are consumers of your service, which is providing a job with good pay and benefits and a good working environment and all those other things. Okay? That's really what we're talking about. We always say in HRO, our people are our customers. Okay, let's treat them like customers. Let's give them the service that they expect. So you're going to see a lot of corollaries, and those of you who are maybe in very customer-focused types of positions, you're going to see or hear in this presentation a lot of corollaries between how we treat customers and how we treat employees. So ultimately, what the experience age is all about is it's about getting the most out of our lives. Wasn't too long ago, and we've got a swath of generations in here, which is good. How many of you remember your neighbors would go on vacation, and they would come back from vacation, and what would happen? They would tell you, but how would they tell you about it?
Come over for dinner.
Come over for dinner. Look at our pictures. And if you want to go really old school, it was a slideshow. Right? And everybody like, why are we going to the Joneses tonight to look at their stupid pictures? What do we do now? We're on vacation, we're posting stuff on Facebook and everything else, and we're getting the likes. Oh, I like that, I like the like, which is so jealous. Oh, that food looks great, blah. Stuff has changed, hasn't it? But people are using those platforms to experience what we are experiencing. How many of you have GoPro cameras? Okay, what do you do with your GoPro?
We do Jeep trips. So
Ah.
a lot of our Jeeps.
Okay, so you mount it on the Jeep and off you go.
Yeah.
So is that for your memory?
Yes.
And do you ever post that video?
My husband does.
Okay, all right. So I can live vicariously. If I can't go on a Jeep trip, yes, as opposed to Cheap Trick, which is a band, right? If I want to live vicariously through her and her husband, I watch their video of GoPro, right? I can see it shaking around, I can see the dust and the mud flying and everything else. People jump out of airplanes with their GoPros. You can experience that, okay? That's how we're using the information that's at our fingertips now, is experience. And so this is where we want to go with the rest of our time today. How do we give this experience to our employees that they want, but maybe even more importantly, how do we share it with the world to drive talent to our doorstep? That's what we're going to look at, okay? Because what we're moving from is this cold idea of I just want information to I want an emotional connection. That's why we're friends on Facebook with people. We want that emotional connection. I want to know what's going on in your vacation because I care about you and I want to live vicariously through you. Our employees want that same kind of emotional connection. So perhaps if I've got an emotional connection with Jenna and things are getting a little out of whack, she might hang in a little bit longer. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that because I want to abuse her and milk her for everything she's got. No. But maybe until I can level the playing field again, if I've created that connection, she's willing to hang with me through the tough times. And you guys have people that just did this for you over the last 2 years, right? We asked a lot of our people over the last 2 years. And so the question is, are they still emotionally committed to you? Because if not, again, what most studies show are that, quote, when COVID's over, people are going to mass exodus companies that didn't take care of them during this time, which means there's no emotional connection there. So here's why we should care as HR people. Before we get into the meat of it, this is why we should care. I want you to think about your business processes and what they support. And what I mean by that is, do they support your business goals and the way you want your people to feel about your business? Perfect example is I was working with an organization that had a very large call center, you know, one of the 1-800 numbers, right? And on the wall in the call center, it said, "We strive for one call resolution." Now, wouldn't that be lovely for you to call an 800 number and not have to tell your story 10 times, right? We all want that. It's a beautiful thing. Here's the process that caused the disconnect. How do you think their people earned bonuses? By the number of calls they took in an hour. What the heck, right? So we've got this fancy message on the wall. This is the experience we want to create for our customers. Essentially saying we want you to develop a connection with them so that they get the resolution they want. They're feeling good about us. Everything's peaches and cream. But meanwhile, we're telling you, you want to get some skin in the game, Bridget? Get on and off that phone, baby. Let's go. Okay? Doesn't make any sense. I'd ask you to take a look, not just at your HR processes, but what processes do you have that might be conflicting with some of the things you're trying to achieve? And I know you have them because every business has them. Every business I've ever walked into has these processes. Say, why are you doing that? Well, it's because it's how we do it around here. Yeah, but why? What is it supporting? What is it doing? What is it driving? Show me the measurable result that's coming from that. And does that measurable result match up against what's on the wall, on our mission statement, our vision statement, or whatever? That's why this thing is so critical, because that's part of the employee experience. The kind of person that I'm going to attract in is going to be different if they believe on what's on that wall about one call resolution versus the person that says, "Oh, baby, I'm getting on and off that phone as quick as possible so I can earn change." Those are two very different types of commitment. Now, maybe you want the environment where you want people on and off the phone. Great, then get that off the wall. Okay? Either way, there's a disconnect. And when we have disconnects, we lose the ability to connect emotionally with our people because they see it. And then they just start going through the motions. And without the emotional connection, we're in trouble. So, I love Mike Wadera's quote here. He talks about how we're consuming information. And so what I want you to think about on this front is, how do you consume information? And how do you think your people consume information? Current client I'm working with is a mid-sized insurance company. And they had the same CEO for 40 years. And they were a very conservative company in their views, how they conducted business, the policies they wrote. And they grew, but it was very slow and very methodical. This gentleman retires, bring in new CEO, and the board says, we'd like to see some growth accelerated here. So he's kind of pedal to the metal, right? Expecting more of their people, and they're growing like mad. So there's a lot of good things happening, but we've got some disconnects now. They've changed up how they push information out to their people. It used to be that the former CEO could walk around, he knew everybody, could shake hands with you, knew about your kids, knew about your interests, the whole bit. They've grown too much. The new CEO can't do that, can't touch 300 people a day, okay? Can't know something about every single person. And so what they've started doing is they've started pushing information out online. And okay, it worked. It was on their intranet, okay? But then they started whacking out some information. And they went with some new technology. And all of a sudden, people are complaining like, it takes me 10 clicks to get the information that I need. I can't find the information. It used to be 1 click before. They can't consume the information now. It's not there to be found. And so in addition, I'm going to use this company a couple times this morning just because they're fresh in my mind. But one of the things we're working on right now is changing their intranet. And we're moving them to a platform that looks a lot like Facebook in a way. but it's meant for companies and how they push information out and share information. And we're in the trial phases of it with one department, and so far it's going really well because we're bringing that experience and that emotional connection to the other coworkers back. But we'll talk more about that. Here's what's something that's interesting. Anthropologists have said that we as human beings, we are evolving faster than we ever have in our history. Only it's not our bodies, our physical attributes that are morphing, it's our minds. And it's all due to how we've got computers in our hands and how we process information. Our brains are actually changing in what we want and what we expect. If I told you all to go for a week without your phones, could you do it? Right? Some people say, oh yeah, it wouldn't be but a thing. Okay, try it for a day and see what happens. Some people, do you remember back when Blackberries were out? Okay, so I know this is going back. What were they called? What was the nickname for Blackberries? Crackberries, right? Because everyone is like, I gotta be on this thing. Okay? Here we are today. And those Blackberries are nowhere near as powerful as the stuff that we all have in our pockets right now. Right? So we're changing. And so from a business perspective and an HR service delivery model, we have to change too. So the change isn't just, it's not a generational thing. It's not those doggone Gen Zs coming into the workforce. No, forget all that garbage. Okay? All of us are morphing and changing with how we're doing what we're doing when it comes to interacting with the world around us. Okay? So we're going to spend a lot of time on this slide. This is the money slide. If you're going to take a picture, take it now. This is where the magic is. Okay? You're allowed to get your phones out. Those magic non-Blackberries right now. Okay, so let's start over. We're going to go left to right. Obviously, these steps are numbered. The biggest mistake most organizations make when they are going to transform their culture, and that's what we're talking about because we're talking about getting into the experience age, right? Oh, and I will say, if your angle's off at the end, I'll pull this slide back up and you can get a straight-on shot. So I know those of you in the corner. But then again, you guys chose to sit over there, so there's that, right? No, so seriously, what we're looking at here is we've got to focus on just a couple of outcomes we want out of this change into the experience age. Okay? Last year I was working with a long-term care facility. And the board brought me in initially to do some board development work with them, get them working more cohesively together. But what came out of that process was the realization that their CEO was probably not living up to their standards. And they asked me to coach him for a little bit. And so the very first time I sat down with this gentleman, I asked this question. What are the concrete things you're measuring? He gets out, he doesn't have it on his, well, he probably did, but he gets out this like graph paper. The guy was old school, graph paper. He was tracking 13 different elements. I said, that's too many. He says, Ed, you know what you're talking about. I got to track all of these things because if I don't, the place is going to fall apart. I said, well, let me tell you something. The place isn't doing so hot right now. And if you don't fix it, the board is going to remove you. So clearly, something is broken. We whittled those things down to 4, realizing that they had tentacles that were going to reach out to some of the other things. He was focusing on way too many outcomes, and therefore, what was he doing to his executive team? Had them running crazy. Oh, we got to push this button this week. Okay, well, that's fixed. Now let's go over here. Oh, now that one's gone. Oh, we got to fix that again. That's all they were doing. It was a circle. So when you go back and you think about some of the things that we're going to talk about this morning, pick just a couple of them that you want to do. There's going to be a lot of nuggets this morning. Pick just a couple and say, this is what I want to focus on. Now, from an HR perspective, when I think about concrete business outcomes, they fall into only a couple of categories. 1, how we pay and reward our people has a direct result on our bottom line business results. 2nd, how we train and develop those people and hold them accountable through a good performance management system. And 3rd is the culture that we're developing. Now, HR people, what didn't I mention in those top 3 things that drive business results? Shelley, you just heard it this morning in the major session. What was it? She's like, I don't know. That was a half hour ago, Ed. I don't know what happened a half hour ago. Is compliance in there? No. Now, please don't walk out and go, that dude's crazy. He said I don't have to worry about compliance. No, I didn't say that. I said that compliance does not drive business success. Does it? No, it is a risk management measure. That is it. Okay? So I want to be very clear. Is it important? Yes. If it spends 90% of your time, unless you're the risk management person, you're doing it wrong. Okay? You have to focus as strategic HR people on the things that drive business success and business results. And there are a lot of buttons we can push, but I believe they fall into those three categories. How you pay and reward your people, how you develop them and hold them accountable, and the culture that you build in your organization. That's what we're called to as HR professionals. Okay? The compliance is a checkbox. Once it's done, check it, move on. Okay? So a couple of concrete outcomes. Now, let's talk about this emotional commitment. Let me tell you what emotional commitment is not. It's not wellness days. Okay? I'm not saying don't do wellness days, but think about it. How many you do wellness days? Okay? Only one. Okay? So it must not be that important. Why do you do wellness days?
So through the pandemic, we did well-being times. So
Well-being times.
we're able to take, at the beginning, 4 hours a week.
Okay?
So they could get away from work and just focus on
Just chill. Okay? I have a client who is an orthopedic practice. So they are medical providers, and they do wellness days. And at their wellness days, you get all the things you would expect to get. Get your blood pressure taken. You can, they'll listen to your heart rate. There's some nutritionists that come in. I mean, it's kind of the basics, right? Here's the problem. On those same wellness days, they bring food in. And if you're in the early, I'm not even there yet. You guys are laughing. I'm not even there yet. If you're on the early shift, what do they get? Donuts. And if you're on the lunchtime shift, what do you get? Pizza. Oh, your blood pressure's fine? Have some pepperoni. We'll take care of that for you. Okay? It doesn't make any sense. Right? How do we know? That's also a business process. But when we look at emotional commitment, we have to understand why we do what we do for our people and what they're telling us they really want out of their time with us. What are the things that are going to drive that emotional commitment for you? Now, I was giving this talk a couple weeks ago when someone came up afterwards and he said to me, Ed, you didn't really talk about the things we can do to drive emotional commitment. I said, well, I know I didn't. He said, well, why not? You said that was so important. What can I tell you about what your people need? I barely know you guys. How do I know what your people need? How do you know what your people need? Ask them. Ask them what they need. Go to your highest performers, the ones you know are visibly committed to you. Sit down over a cup of coffee and say, what fires you up about working here? How can I clone you? How can I replicate you? How can I get other people as committed as you are? What are we doing right that I can continue to work on? We're going to talk about those people are cultural influencers. We're going to talk about them again here in a second further down this path. Think about why you are at your organization. When I'm talking to not-for-profit groups, they'll say, oh, well, our people are committed to our mission. I don't know, are they? Because that logic says that regardless of what industry you're in, if you're working with someone, you're committed to their mission. If you're making widgets, well, I'm committed to making widgets. Okay? I don't know, am I? Or am I just collecting a paycheck? So I don't care what industry you're in, are your people really committed to the mission of the organization and to helping the organization thrive and meet its ultimate vision? Okay? I don't know what that is for you because I don't know what each of your companies are. But I do know that in order to foster that emotional commitment, you've got to ask the people that are committed so you can replicate that. And the people that aren't committed, you've got to talk to them too to find out what you can do to get them committed. Third step is where the experience age comes in. What is the experience I want to create for my people? What do I want work to be like? I mean, work is a four-letter word, let's be honest, it is. And there are going to be days that stink. We all have days that stink. You might love your job, but there are days you're like, gosh, I want to poke my eyes out. You know, this is painful, okay? It's okay. But the question is, what is my overall experience like working here? I was working with a small advertising agency, and their biggest problem was that the owner was an aging baby boomer, but the entire staff, there were a couple of young Xers, but mostly millennials. And they were asking for things that this owner, he would look at me and say, Ed, I don't get it. Why do they want to dress down? Like, he would dress just kind of like this every day in the office. Now, mind you, no one ever came to the office. The customers never came. They would go to the customers. So there was really no reason to dress up in the office. Now, he's running a creative ad agency. Don't you want your people to be creative and comfortable? And you're paying them for their brain power, not how they look. And so I looked and I said, Bill, why do you care? I mean, obviously you don't want someone coming in their flannel pajamas and bunny slippers. Okay, I get that. But why can't people wear jeans or whatever, to the workplace? Well, I just don't know if it's professional. Okay, well, professional in whose eyes? Because they're telling you they want this. And don't you want them comfortable? Don't you want them firing on all cylinders from creativity standpoint? Oh yeah, I guess so. And guess what? They dress professionally. They look nice. They wear nice jeans, but they're comfortable. And it's fostering the creativity that their clients need. And then one other time he's telling me about how, he says, Ed, they want a Keurig in the break room. Like, okay, so what's the problem? Well, I already give them coffee in there. Okay, so how much does a Keurig cost again? Oh yeah, a couple $100. I mean, we're talking about a 20-person work group here, okay? I said, what your people are telling you is, hey, give us a Keurig. We can get our fancy coffees and teas and hot cocos and ciders and all these different things. Why wouldn't you do that? I don't understand. What is the problem here? And it wasn't about money. This was a successful firm. He just could not get it through his head that maybe they wanted something other than black coffee, okay? It's part of the experience, right? Again, I don't know what experience you want to deliver for your people. That's part of what I'm going to challenge you with as you leave here. What's the experience that I believe our people need? And what's the best way to find out what experience they need? Ask them. See, when you go to the legal sessions, what do you always hear? It depends. In my sessions, you get, ask your people. That's where the money is, okay? Ask them about the experience. Now, I also want you to think externally. We're going to talk about the external experience here in a little bit, but think externally. What is the experience you want your candidates for employment to have with you? How many of you on your webpage have a careers tab? Pretty much all of you, okay? And when I go to that career tab, what do I see? Job listing of any openings with a description. What else do I see? Why you should work there, okay? So it's like written out, like all the good things, okay? What else do I see? Pictures. Oh, I'm happy. I'm happy working here. Does that tell me anything about the experience of working for you? Nope, nada, nothing. Yes, you need the open positions out there with a description. Absolutely, you got to have that. Why do we have pictures of smiling employees? Why don't I sit down with her in like a mini interview and post that video out there about why she loves doing what she's doing? Better yet, why don't I do it out on the floor while she's working? How can I convey the experience that we all do? We talked about at the beginning on Facebook, right? We're trying to live through the experiences of others. How can I drive that on my recruiting platforms? And how do I use my company Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter accounts to do all of that social media marketing, not just for your products and services, but for your recruitment efforts? So I would suggest that you buddy up to your marketing team. Get them to help you with this. Recruiting is marketing. That's what it is. And today's candidates want to know not just, do you have a job that I think I'm qualified for and are you going to pay me, you know, what I think I'm worth? I want to know before I ever click send on my resume whether or not this place is even a place I want to think about working. Think about the level of commitment it takes to send a resume out today. Is there any real commitment whatsoever? I got to take this finger and I go, send. That's the level of commitment. Go back 30 years ago, 20 years ago even, we had to type up something, we had to print it out, we had to put it in the mailbox, right? There was a lot more effort. Today, click, 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 done. I just applied to 10 jobs in 5 seconds. Done, right? So people aren't committed now when they send us their stuff. We've got to drive, if we want to pull the right people in, we've got to show them what the experience is like of working in that job, in our organization. That's what's going to drive talent to you. Okay, moving on. Some of you are in very large organizations, some probably smaller. Either way, only focus on a couple positions to start. Maybe one department or one work group. And start testing out some of the concepts that we're discussing and that we will discuss here in a couple minutes. Okay? Don't, eat the whole elephant at once. Can't do it. Just go one little piece at a time. Get some successes, have some failures, learn from them, fix them, and then go to the next department or the next set of critical jobs. So maybe there's a very specific group of jobs you know that you're always recruiting for or something. Start with those. Start with jobs that are the most mission critical. Start with the jobs that are going to have the biggest, maybe it's cherry picking. What can I have the biggest success with the least amount of effort on this one? But pick jobs that have high impact. And that does not necessarily mean they're high up the food chain. So when I was in college, I worked for UPS and I worked on the docks. Those people that work on the docks determine whether or not you get your box, not the driver. Because if I was out partying the night before and I was hungover at 3 in the morning and I looked at your box and I was like, I threw it on this other truck over here, that driver can only deliver what's on his or her truck. Right? And if I sent that across town instead of your side of town, you're not getting your box today. And so a lot of the people that drive your business results may never touch your customer, but they're critical to your business success. I would say maybe that's a position you want to start with, to develop that retention and that recruitment funnel in there. Okay? So there's just a couple ideas of where you want to start. Okay, changing behaviors. So we have to start that as HR people. We have to change our behavior and how we think about what the employment relationship is and what it's all about. And if we can't raise up the money, the benefits, or whatever, okay, what else can I do to close that gap for poor Jenna here who's getting overworked, right? What do I do? Do I give her, so the lady back here said about, some well-being time. Do I throw some extra personal days at her? I mean, how can we get creative with things that maybe don't cost us a whole lot, but at least are telling her, we recognize we're asking a lot of you right now. And while we can't up your salary because things are crazy right now, maybe we can do a few other things. And she might be okay with that. In fact, I would sit down and say, look, we can't give you another 10 grand right now. What would make you happy with this extra workload? Let me work from home a day a week or 2 days a week or every day. I don't know. Done, sold, send them home. Let her work from home, okay? So our behavior has to change first. The next thing is that our frontline supervisor's behavior has to change. What we're talking about here, and you're going to see this in an upcoming slide, we are not talking about employee engagement, okay? If everyone thinks the experience age is a fancy term for employee engagement, it's not. We're going to see why in a moment, okay? This orthopedic practice I was telling you about, I got that referral from their president. He was sitting in an audience just like this, and we talked about this concept of employment brand, which we're going to explore here in a moment. And he said, Ed, we've got to talk. I believe that my HR function is actively inhibiting my ability to grow this practice. Wow. Wow. And he wasn't far off when I got in there and started digging around. one of the problems, this was a monster practice, 700, 800 employee orthopedic practice. They had 6, 7 people in HR. And I sat down to interview each of them and talk about what their roles were. And one thing I heard from each one of them when I said, what is the goal of your job? What do you think I heard? Any guesses? I'm sorry? I did not hear compliance, actually, which surprised me being in a healthcare environment. To what?
Pay people.
Nope, they were screwing that up too. She said to pay people. They were screwing that up. Yes. Nope. Yes. It's my job to make people happy. Now, they were all on point. All 6, 7 of them, whatever it was, all on point. Great. Y'all are failing at that too, because the workplace was miserable. And I sat down with the entire team and I said, guys, look, it's not your job to make people happy. Oh, but Ed, we're in HR. Yeah, I get that. I'm an HR guy. I get it. It's not our job. Whose job is it to make people happy? Themselves. Thank you very much. We're all grown adults. It's our choice whether or not we're going to be happy on any given day. But if we want to assign someone to be responsible for making people happy, whose job is it? They're supervisors. Okay? So when we look at this idea of changing behavior, we have to change how our frontline people are managing our employees. And also remember that our managers are getting managed by other people. So it goes back up the line, right? Because we're all employees. And but what I'm saying is somewhere you've got to start. How is it we want our people managed to foster commitment and deliver on a really good workplace experience? Because why do people quit jobs? Supervisors and managers, right? We know this. Since time out of mind, we've known this, and it hasn't changed. Okay? Number 6, citizen-led information, or promote citizen-led innovation, excuse me. All I'm talking about there is get your people involved. Ask them for help in this process. Ask them for help in the things they want to see. I was working for a large nursing facility, and they had been, it was back home, and they just had grown massively over 50 years. And when they started out, they used to have a nice little company picnic on the grounds. They'd have a pig roast, and families would come, and it was just like a picnic, and everyone hung out, and kids' games and all this stuff. But as they grew and they grew and they grew, they outgrew doing that. And so they started taking everyone to Hershey Park, which is, anyone been to Hershey Park, by the way? Yeah, a couple of you, great, yeah. So they would go there and rent out the catering, booze, and all that stuff, and it's not quite the same vibe. And then, because it was getting expensive, they said, employees are free, but we're going to ask you to pay $5 for each of your family members that want to go. Now, is that still a steal to get your burger and your dog and Hershey Park all day? Absolutely. The place costs like $90 to get in. Okay, $5, nothing. What do you think happened? Revolt. Utter revolt. Only about 60% of the people were going at that point. So 40% of people said, heck with it, we're not even doing it at all. And the other 60% paid their $5, but were still grumbling about it. Now, this was costing them over $40,000 a year to do this. To have 40% of your people just ignoring it, and the other 60 grumbling about it. Is that a wise use of $40,000? I don't care what kind of company you got. To me, no. Now, this same company, every year, on your birthday, you got a gift certificate to go get a cake at the local bake shop. And the cake was fully customizable, any flavors, any icings, any decoration. Heck, it didn't even have to say happy birthday. You wanted it for your kid or your wedding anniversary, whatever. They'd write anything on you wanted. Cost $10 an employee to do that, and 99% of those gift certificates got used every year. What are our people telling us? We see these kinds of stats. Now, I sat with that executive team, and I said, get rid of the company picnic. And what do you think happened? Oh, Ed, what are you talking about? We have, say it, always had a company picnic, Ed. Ask your people what they want. Maybe they don't want the company picnic anymore. Do something else. Heck, I've heard many people saying, you know what, take that $50 a head and give me a gift certificate to Amazon, or give me your certificate to here, right? And this is a weird argument that I'll get from management. They'll say, well, Ed, we do this to foster commitment, but if I just give them the gift card, where's the commitment? I don't know, because they're telling you that's what they want. Just start there. Instead of you telling them what they want, that's what they want, right? Let's stop making decisions about what our people want and what's good for them, okay? And we do that by asking them for help in this. Okay, moving on. This is a journey, and it's going to touch every piece of your job. It's going to touch learning and development. It's going to touch succession planning. It's obviously touching recruitment and retention. It's touching performance management. You name it. And so people will always say, well, Ed, how long does this take? I don't know. How big's your company? What's your culture like right now? Are you geographically dispersed? Are you under one roof? I mean, there's so many variables. I will tell you, if you think you're doing this like, I don't know, the first quarter of 2022, you're kidding yourself. That ain't happening, I know that. 6, 9, 12 months at a minimum, I think, regardless of your size, just to get a few wins before you roll it out to the entire organization. Because again, as you start to see the tendrils come out from this, you're going to see other areas for improvement, things you can work on. So I don't see this as a project so much as a process, okay? We talked about those cultural influencers earlier. You know who they are in your community. They're those employees that may not have a title, but other people listen to them. If you go back to many of you, we were kids, some of you weren't even born yet, but that's okay. There used to be a commercial on TV, and it would always show people mixing around at a restaurant, and someone would say, well, my advisor is E.F. Hutton. And when E.F. Hutton talks, what happens? People listen, right? And the whole restaurant will go quiet. Now, some of you are like, Ed, I have no idea what you're talking about. You know what? YouTube it. Look at it up on YouTube. You'll see it, okay? But the whole concept was, oh, wow, they're such great advisors that everybody wants to hear what they have to say, okay? Cultural influencers. You have them in your workplace. When they talk, people listen. When they act, people watch. Those are the people, if you go back to the citizen-led innovation, those are the people you want on your committees helping you with this. You want those cultural influencers, and you have them. You just have to identify them. And you can identify them by just watching what's going on. Walk into your break room sometime. Even walk around on the shop floor. You'll see who your informal leaders are. They're powerful people for you, and you need them on your side to make any kind of workplace change, but especially this one. Okay, now what do we do with the unwilling? People who don't want to change. What are we going to do with them? Five years ago, see ya. Today, I don't know. Having that seat empty is really kind of tough. I really should have a body in that seat right now. What I would ask you is, are they doing more harm sitting in that seat than if the seat was empty? That's really what you have to ask yourself. Because some of those people, I guarantee you, fall into that category. And you guys are all seasoned HR professionals. How many times have you ever fired someone and you had people come to you and say, thank you. Thank you for getting rid of that person. What took you so long? We've all been there, right? And I know for a number of reasons we can't always just pull the trigger and get them out as fast as we might like. I get that. But that's what we're talking about here. We give them a chance to get on the bus with us. And if they won't get on, we might be better off leaving that seat empty. And I know that's almost like sacrilege saying in the tight talent market we're in, but I just want you to think about the business impact of having that seat filled with a person who's not committed and who could be undermining you versus having the seat empty and having to disperse that workload for a period of time. Again, only you can make that decision, but I at least want you thinking about it, and I want your executive teams thinking in those terms as well. And then finally, we're going to have course corrections. You know, we're not going to turn this ship around overnight. I don't know what direction your ship's going in. I just know it takes a while to turn stuff around. And the important thing is, because this is a comprehensive journey, we need to be absolutely certain that we're making course corrections along the way and not just doing a UE, okay? Because dangerous things happen when we do that. So each one of these steps we've got to think about, we've got to process it, we've got to talk through it, and we've got to make sure that we're on the right direction. If not, we make a little correction and go. And really, except for something like a COVID-type pandemic craziness, where all of a sudden we went, whoa, and we did have to do a major pivot. I hate that term, it's overused now, but a major turn, a major course correction, okay? Let's just tweak some things and see how it goes. Give it time to play out. Culture transformation takes time. No matter where you're at with your culture, it takes some time. Now, I mentioned about engagement a moment ago, and here's why engagement and experience are two different things. Engagement is about making people happy. We throw the pizza party, and people are happy while they're eating their pizza. You have birthday cake for everyone born in the month of October. Great, everyone's happy. It doesn't foster commitment. It has a place. Do not get me wrong. It has a place. During football season, you allow people on Fridays to wear their team colors. Great. That's engagement. Experience, on the other side, is where we're truly meeting the employee expectations the rest of the time. The other 99% of the time, their needs and their expectations are getting met. If we can merge those two, we're meeting their needs and we're making them happy, that's the employee experience. You can throw all the pizza parties and birthday cake luncheons and all that other fun stuff all you want. If you are not meeting my basic needs for the experience that I want out of work, I might say this is a great place, but I'm out of here because I need to grow, I need to be challenged, I need more opportunity, and it's just not here. How many of you have lost people because of that? Maybe they haven't told you, but some cases, that's it. They're going to leave, no matter how much they love it. I'm not fulfilled here. So they're engaged, they love you, but they're not fulfilled. That's the biggest leap we have to make to create the experience that our people need. And I get in these lean times, perhaps you don't have a lot of upward mobility right now. But what could we be doing? Could I be setting the stage for some of these employees to grow and to move up once those positions open up? Can I get them the learning, the development they need? Maybe I get them on special assignments, whatever it happens to be. How can I continue to engage them even in a situation where maybe we just don't have a lot of upward mobility? That's where as HR people we can't just say, we don't got anything, so I'm not going to worry about that. That's flying in the face of the experience that today's people want, especially the younger generations, the millennials and the Zs. They want it. They crave it. Heck, the millennials have been in the workforce now for over 20 years. If we haven't figured out what they want by now, I go to all these conferences, I still see stuff in there about the millennials. I'm like, come on, the millennials are 3/4 of the room. Like if they don't know if we don't know how to fix it, well then they don't know how to fix themselves because they're making some of the decisions now. It doesn't make any sense, okay? So we've got to ask ourselves these things. Now, let's talk about brand promise here. That's what we're winding up. So what is your employment brand promise? If I say Nike, you say? It's their marketing brand promise. I say Disney, you say? Most magical place on earth. It's a brand promise. From a customer standpoint, what is your brand promise from an employee standpoint? If I went out to the marketplace, and where can I go to the marketplace to find out what your brand promise is for employees? Glassdoor. That probably sends shivers down everybody's spine. We're like, oh, there's nothing good out there, Ed. I know there's nothing good out there, but can we learn from it? You think your candidates for employment aren't looking at that stuff? Truth or not, right? So if it's not truth that's out there, there's nothing you can do about it except fight fire with fire. And that's where your marketing of your positions really comes in. That's where being proactive with video and testimonials and live stuff, live feeds of your employees and activities and pushing that out through social media. Again, buddy up to your marketing team and talk to them how they market your products and services, and just do the exact same for marketing your products and services to your people and to the people you're trying to recruit. That's what's going to develop your brand promise. That orthopedic practice If you broke a bone, had a spinal issue, you went to these docs. They were the best in the region. But nobody wanted to go to work there. Employees would not refer people to come there, and the docs realized if we don't fix this, we're in trouble. Because how many different people touch our patients before we ever see them? And because the docs owned the practice, they did have a lot of control over, okay, we're going to get this fixed. Because they wanted to fix their employment brand promise. And they actually were part of the problem. So what you have to do is make a promise to your people that no one else in your market's making. That's where the magic sauce. What can you do that's different? And I'm not just talking about, oh, we pay more for benefits. Great, good, tell them that. We pay at 90% of the market. Great, tell them that. But tell them, what's the emotional connection you can expect here? Because everybody else can just up the ante on the pay and the benefits. I mean, those are levels, oh, we'll just throw more money at that. Okay? You'll probably never win that one because someone will always pay more right now. So what can you do from an emotional standpoint to keep your people committed and to draw talent to you, to say, you know what? That's the place I want to be. They're doing cool stuff over there. It's where the cool kids are hanging out. And I want to be a cool kid. Because what you have to ask yourselves is, where are you right now? And what's your reality? It'd be nice if all of us were in the top right quadrant there, okay? That the expectations that we have for our people and the reality that we're delivering on were the same, but it's probably not. So this is homework for you. Ask your people where you are. What have we promised you and what are we actually delivering on? That's key. Marry those two up. This is your second piece of homework, or third, I lost count. But I believe in homework, so you're getting homework, okay? Again, the goal with counts. I know I've used a lot of internal examples, but what we're really also talking about is marketing your place of employment to prospective candidates. And all your prospective candidates right now are working elsewhere. You know this. So you've got to draw them in through creating that brand promise that their current employer is not making to them. And that means you've got to go into marketing mode, not just posting mode. Posting is done. Post and market your jobs and be marketing your company constantly as a place of employment, because if you do that, even when you don't have open positions, which hopefully at some point you'll get to again, you will still continue to draw the best and the brightest to you. That puts you back in the power seat. Final thing I want to mention, if you need to sell doing this to management, this is your slide. Because we know that engaged employees stay longer. That's not a surprise. We also know that if we keep employees longer, that drives customer satisfaction because they're dealing with the same people, making the same widgets. Okay, great. We know that satisfied customers are loyal to us. We know that loyal customers drive our profitability. So the bottom line is we drive more value for our owners or our shareholders or our employees, maybe because you're an EO, maybe you're an ESOP, right? If we just start with keeping our people engaged through the experiences that we drive. That's why this is a business imperative for us. If you can connect these dots and put the percentages that apply to your specific business behind each of these, you will have no problem selling the time and effort it's going to take to make this transformation. So I want to thank you for your time this morning. I want to thank you for having some fun in here and for asking questions. And if you want more tidbits about things you can do on what we're talking about today, shameless plug, they're in my book on strategic HR. Thank you so much for your time this morning.